The new prehistoric zoo was ever expanding, and though it was mentioned that its project would be much smaller compared to the main zoo and safari park, by now it had gotten to a significant size. It was not uncommon for people to spend their entire day here with the family rather than just a few hours or afternoon. It was true that a tour around the park could be done in less than 1 hour, but there was a lot of other entertainment as well, and the animals themselves were so magnificent and rare that they often would demand a second look and roundabout. For the newest edition though, some creepy crawlers were being added in the form of the Arthropleura. These creatures were shaped and formed after the modern centipede Scolopendra. The actual Arthropleura, however, might have looked and behaved significantly different. Their size was of course the first thing that came to mind. There was a large variable in sizes to begin with, making it a bit more difficult to assure specimens were created that would wow the audience. They could be as large as 3 meters, but also as small as 30 centimeters. No one wanted to see a 30 centimeter creature, so the scientists made sure to only send over the largest and scariest looking ones. Now, when one thinks about centipedes, more often than not, the association is negative. It's either poisonous, very aggressive, or scary in that it's a carnivore. Though these Arthropleura had also been created with the DNA splicing genomes that made them a carnivore, it has become a more popular theory over the years that these creatures were actually herbivores. If they were indeed carnivorous like modern centipedes, their mouths would have been much sturdier, meaning they would have been retained and fossilized. But not a single fossil has been found with its mouth still intact, pointing to a theory that they were herbivores. Now, these creepy crawlers lived in wet tropical areas. It's part also why they went extinct back in the day as the earth dried up, losing all its tropical rainforest areas. As with the zone opposite of them, several sprinklers were installed to make sure the temperature and moisture would be at the perfect level, and the Arthropleura really thrived in this environment. They were very active and crawled all over the place, giving the audience something really unique to look at. Though there was not a significant color variation with its pattern, the color itself was very fiery and aggressive looking, again leaning in on the fact that the modern centipedes were taken as the blueprints for its looks. Now, seeing as this corner would contain the more exotic and scary looking creatures, it was also the perfect area to introduce the next animal in the form of the Dinosuchus. This giant prehistoric crocodile, of course, already made its debut back in the main dinosaur zoo, but over time, the scientists had made some adjustments to the looks and behavior of this magnificent creature. Its looks were leaner, more aggressive looking, while still holding on to that familiar sight of a proper crocodile. Maybe, when one were to look at just a picture of these, it would not be that special, but the distinct difference was of course its giant size. Normally, with modern crocodiles, one could stand behind it and would be relatively safe since the crocodile was not as agile to where it could easily perform a 180-degree turn. With the size of the Dinosuchus, however, he could easily punch you forward with a tail whip and snap at you with its powerful jaws. Despite having received behavioral inhibitors, extreme caution was still advised since the instincts were ever present in this animal species, of which we can still see the results today. Together with sharks, these crocodiles are one of the few things we have still left and inherited from ancient times. Luckily, the requirements and needs for these crocodiles were a lot less complicated than the Arthropleura or its other neighbor. Though they needed, of course, plenty of water, they also required a lot of open space to where they could heat and warm up in the sun. Nothing had changed regarding their cold-bloodedness, and in the early morning and late night, there was hardly any movement with them, whereas during the day, there was plenty of it. They were also very active during the moving itself, but that must have been the shock or fear of being sedated and then flown over by helicopter. That would give anyone a bad hangover. Though the audience had already introduced themselves to the Dinosuchus a while back, many were still excited and thrilled to see this newer and improved version, making it almost sound like an improved taste of soda drink or other food item. But many agree that these versions look much better, demanding so much more respect and awe from anyone laying their eyes upon them. Because the focus of the animals that were added in the past weeks had been on the more creepy or scary side, many of the higher-ups thought that it was time to introduce the audience once again to something familiar that would not immediately send them running away. The Leptobos was yet another animal that had seen the light of day in the previous zoo, but was of course also welcomed with open arms in this particular park. The Leptobos was closer related to a bison, but for the look and feel, the scientists went with something more similar to that of a wildebeest. It was yet again one of those animals where the similarities in looks with modern ones could not be denied, but the main difference was its size. Despite their giant, fearsome-looking horns, these were some of the most docile creatures to be added, and they were the perfect candidate to have in a mixed pen with some of the other animals. For now, they would receive their own zone, as the higher-ups were thinking about making a separate area in the park specifically for a mixed area of different types of animals. As these were herd animals, the scientists made sure to fly over plenty to make them feel at home. Though they were fond of grazing on the open steppes and fields, there was not a whole lot of room here near the shore. But they were very content and happy with the new home that they received. The social behavior of this magnificent animal immediately showcased itself, since they were always paired up with at least one other member of the small group. Though they were a bit nervous in the beginning, it did not take long before all of them let their guard down and they could spend most of their day just grazing and chewing that delicious grass over and over. It's just what cows do. By now, a lot of the animals had been added to the park, and truth be told, that the finish line could be seen on the horizon. There were still a few highlights to be added, including the woolly rhino and the mammoth of course, but the other creatures that were still available could be counted on one hand. For the next introduction though, they wanted to bring in something original once more, since the people had already seen the rhinos and the mammoths before. So for the next edition in the park, the Gigantopithecus was given green light.